If you've got some paperwork that you want to share with us, you
Yes,
can
sir.
give it to Julie.
Senators, thank you again for inviting us to have a say in this. I would say it's kind of unusual. Senator Davis took most of the words out of my mouth as he gave testimony. And just as a background, I served 14 years as the United States Special Agent. On the front of this, and I'll show it to the back, is my daughter, Anna. Anna, this is when she was at the Cleveland Clinic. Well, let me first say, my name is Dan O'Neill. I live at 222 Beechwood Drive, Spartanburg, South Carolina. I am married for 40 years to Lynn O'Neill and have two children, Josh 32 and Anna 30. Anna developed epilepsy when she was 3 months old. They thought it was possibly a reaction to the second DPT shot, the Pitocin. The incubation period occurred at the same time. The United States actually set up a super fund for that, but we did not pursue it. She was diagnosed with infantile spasms. And if you don't know what that is, you ought to look it up one day. It is one of the most deadly diseases a child can ever get. Matter of fact, the doctor said it normally kills the parents before it kills the child. It is something devastating to go through. We noticed it very early in Anna's life, at 3 months. I studied pre-med and I knew some things, and she was developing these jerks forward, and they were rhythmic. They were happening. I would go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 now, and I could tell when they were going to happen. So we took her to a neurologist in Atlanta. He said, I'm not quite so sure what I'm seeing, but I have seen one case in 45 years. And he said it's infantile spasms. We went to Emory, she was diagnosed, and immediately we started on a drug. They told me what we were going to have to do before we left that hospital, and I said, that's impossible. I was going to have to learn to put an NG tube in her nose. There's an inch between her nose and her lung and her stomach. That's why I don't sleep at night, because I hear all the machines going off. Anna was prescribed Acthar, and it is essentially a black tar that goes in with an IM needle into her leg. That's a big needle. That's a tree trunk going into our legs. It did stop Anna's seizures, but she did not eat for 3 years. So we continued to feed her for 3 years. She was developmentally delayed, but she caught up by the first grade, and her epilepsy, and I'll tell you a funny thing about epilepsy too. Anna's primary doctor is Dr. Benjamin Carson, which I'm sure y'all are familiar with. He accepts about 5 cases a year. Anna is one of only 12 cases ever diagnosed with her type of epilepsy. So it's very rare. When we went, before Dr. Carson, Anna had gone almost 6 years without a seizure, but when she started into puberty, her hormones started generating again, and she started having seizures, primarily the drop attacks that we've seen just out in the hallway. Anna's probably broken most every bone in her body. They occur primarily in the bathroom, when she's in the mirror or anywhere. The only place she feels safe is in a bed. Anna's now sedated 20 hours a day. She has been in bed 20 hours a day for the last 15 years. Her friends have moved on. I'm not following my script because I know this by heart. Her friends have moved on. They're engaged, they're having babies. Anna's dying not only of epilepsy, but she's dying of loneliness. You'll hear the people speak of the quality of life. There is no quality of life for Anna. She has attempted suicide once. Her mother was gone out of town one day, and I sat beside her bed because she takes 42 pills a day. I'm going to show you what 42 pills look like. You take one of these and you'll sleep for 3 days. She takes 32 of them, 32 to 40 a day. That's just currently. They're listed on the back on the second page. Anna's had, when her mother was out of town, she just told me at 21, 22, Dad, this was no way to live. She said, it affects your marriage, it affects everything. She said, I'm ready to go home. And she said, will you help me? And I said, Anna, what are you talking about? And she said, will you put the pillow over my head and help me go see my grandparents and my dogs? She was asking me to help her to take her life so that she could be out of the pain. It's amazing not knowing what a Tuesday from a Thursday, from a September, Christmas, that's the type of life Anna lives. Most of the time she does not see daylight. Her 4 hours of consciousness because of these, Anna has an IQ of 110. She's perfectly normal. Not on that. She comes awake about 8 o'clock at night. We feed her one meal. She talks very slow and sluggish because of the medicine she's on. And you know, that is the time that she communicates with the world. Dr. Carson, we had our first brain surgery. Anna's had 5 brain surgeries altogether. Cleveland Clinic with Dr. Carson. Dr. Carson again came out and said that he realized just how severe Anna, and Dr. Carson is considered a phenom among neurosurgeons.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
You know, your story is, and I apologize to the committee, we have to be out of the room at 10:30.
Okay.
And we do have Mark Hill with SLED coming up, and I want to get his testimony in before we finish. And I really, I understand where you're coming from, and I feel your pain, and I understand why this is important. I just asked if you could summarize it a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. And I apologize to everybody here. I would love to hear it, but.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What do you feel if cannabis-related medicines were available? How do you think that would impact Anna's quality of life, based on discussions with physicians, based on your experience, based on what you know? Can you tell this subcommittee panel how Anna's quality of life may change if South Carolina law were to change to allow more cannabis-related substances to be authorized for use by patients?
I'm not a physician, but I can tell you the head of neurosurgery, the head of neurology at MUSC, the head of neurosurgery at the Cleveland Clinic, and the head of neurology at the Cleveland Clinic have already authorized Anna to take it and try it. And again, she is buying something, an herbal medicine now that has a low concentration of the oil in it. And they say try it. If her seizures begin to dissipate somewhat, you know, then they would consider maybe trying to take her off some of these medicines. But they believe, again, you know, the CBD, I'm not talking about marijuana, I'm talking about the oil. It's an extract. You put it in a syringe, you pull it out, and you squirt it in your mouth. But they do believe that it would have a great impact on her. I did put on the very back the law that Texas passed. And Texas passed where you are given a prescription by an epileptologist or a neurologist, you know, that again testifies that you have epilepsy. So again, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for understanding.
Oh, not a problem.